The core of Trump's movement is the working class. Without the working class, there's no MAGA. So MAGA communism is it's literally just Leninism in the American context. And yeah, you're gonna meet the workers where they're at. If the word MAGA triggers you, you're already an enemy of the working class. And you're an enemy of the people. We're dealing with the need for people to understand what is and isn't politics and political differences in the first place. And that kind of brings me to my next point, because it seems like a lot of people are still confused about the MAGA communism thing. And I'll explain it very simply. MAGA communism is not referring to the merger of two sets of policy orientations or two sets of ideologies. It's not an ideology. It's not an ideology. Just keep repeating that over and over again. It's not an ideology. MAGA is not an ideology. MAGA is not an electoral strategy. It's not a political party that exists yet, right? MAGA is just referring to a version of America. So America has split into two. And I'm a Maoist, so when things split into two, you have to take a fucking side. Now, as far as I can see, America split into two. One America is MAGA America. All MAGA means is the self-reflection of America. Make America great again means that the essence of what America is discordant from what it presently appears to be. Or you can interpret that contradiction in whatever kind of ways. Like, the reality of America is discordant with what America is now, right? You can interpret it in all sorts of ways, but that's what MAGA means. MAGA means like this redoubling of America and the national reality of America. That's why MAGA is an incipient form of American socialism. Yep, I said it. Clip it and ship it. MAGA is an incipient form of American socialism. Now, is it a scientific form of socialism? No. But in substance, it's socialistic. It is substantively socialistic. It is not scientifically or even consciously socialistic. But substantively, it is. Why? Because in the sphere of bourgeois formalism, we don't acknowledge our national reality in any with a social lens. Let me put it this way, right? MAGA is America with a twist. You see? It's America with a twist. It's socialist realism. You see? There's the bourgeois realism, which is just America. Oh, just America, right? America has always been the same thing and it'll always be the same thing. But then there's America with a twist. You see? There's America where you put a lens on that's a partisan lens and you see it in a different way. And the way you see it in a different way, you're instantiating that consciously in terms of a movement or a consciousness or a culture or something, right? Or a politics even. That is socialism. Socialism is reality with a twist. Now, what is the twist? Again, I'm a Hegelian schizophrenic. I'm a German idealist fanatic. It's my background is German idealism. The twist you can interpret in Kantian terms as the transcendental social mediation of reality. That there's no just plain reality that exists outside of there. It's transcendentally and socially mediated. So that's kind of maybe the historicist, socially relativist perspectives you get from Kantianism. Or you can have the Hegelian perspective, which understands that specific contradiction between reality as it is in itself and reality as it is for us as an immanent contradiction in the real itself. That's my view. I'm a Hegelian. But whether you're coming from a Kantian perspective or a Hegelian perspective, you're understanding there's a split. It's America with a twist. It can't just be America by itself. America by itself doesn't exist. It needs that extra little twist. The reason it needs that extra little twist is there's a contradiction here. That contradiction, if you're a Marxist, is class warfare. Class warfare is referring to a contradiction at the level of our social relations of production. And one class just so happens to include consciousness of those social relations of production. Ergo, socialism, communism. So that's where we're coming from with the MAGA communism thing. America with a twist. The twist is socialism, or it's communism. That's the twist. Or I should say, America with a twist, the twist being the social reality of America. The American socius. See, America is not some empty object. That's the metaphysics of the bankers. That's the metaphysics of the capitalists. America is a socially substantive reality. America has a concrete social substance. It has a concrete national substance. It's a determinate reality. Now, how do you translate in that in layman's terms? I'll tell you. America isn't a fucking idea, as Joe Biden says. Oh, America is founded on an idea. No, it's not. America has a substantive material reality that exists prior to our ideas. Now, you can, whatever its relation to some Platonic idea, sure, whatever. But America's a reality. It's not an idea. It's not an ideal. It's a fucking reality. And all MAGA is the first way we've come to acknowledge that reality. It's our way of being conscious of that reality. That's socialism, okay? Now, is MAGA at the final stage of its development? No. But if you're a communist and you exist in this country, right? If you're an American and you're a communist, that is square one. MAGA is square one. The mainstream media and the establishment aren't after Trump because of whatever reasons you have to be against Trump, because I don't know, he said something bad about Mexicans once, and I don't even know if that's true, by the way. They're after him because Trump is seen as a rogue state actor. He's seen in the same way Kim Jong-un is. He's seen in the same way Xi Jinping is. He's seen in the same way Hugo Chavez was, or even Fidel Castro, or, even Vladimir Putin, or Lukashenko in Belarus. That is why they're after him. That's the reason they're after him. They're after him because he does represent this kind of, this kind of socialism. And when I say socialism, I just mean this kind of, as they put it, this alternative fact, right? This malign actor, this rogue state, that doesn't fit within the kind of smooth continuity and continuum of, the modern realist or bourgeois reality. So he's seen as like this insufferable malign force because he represents a primitive form of socialist consciousness. He represents that. Do I think Trump has that? I don't know. I can't get in his fucking head. But I'm telling you, that's why they're after him. That's why he poses a problem. Because he's owning up to the fucking reality of America, not the abstraction of America. He's acknowledging the pound of flesh that is from America. He's acknowledging America as it is concretely. He's giving recognition to the American working class. That is dangerous. It's dangerous to fucking do that, okay? You're not supposed to fucking do that. If you're the president or if you're a political figure in this country, you're supposed to say, we're all Americans, and we're all ideal globalists. We all believe in progressive globalism. We all believe in the values of human rights and what the bankers think and in the environment. And America's an idea, and we're all united by an idea. And then Trump is out here saying, we're all Americans. And then he gives them a wink, and then he says, we're all Americans because we love hamburgers, we love NASCAR, we love monster trucks, and we love WWE wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, he's giving it determinacy. You're not supposed to fucking do that. You're not supposed to give it determinacy, because if you give it determinacy, it's dangerous. That means you're telling the peasants that they are a power in this country. The peasants aren't supposed to be fucking aware of themselves. You understand? It's like waking up from the Matrix and seeing everybody in the fucking machine. It's not supposed to fucking happen. We're all supposed to be in this dream state where, oh yeah, America's just an idea and it's an abstraction. I'm just going to listen to what the fucking TV says. You're not supposed to wake up and be like, holy shit, there's a reality here that you don't see on TV. And it's a funny Hegelian irony that Trump is a reality TV star. There's a reality here you don't see on TV. You don't see that on TV. That is fucking dangerous to acknowledge. When Trump talked about the border crisis, the racism that he's infamous for, that everyone nails him on a cross for because he was being racist. I'm not going to comment on, oh, he said they're rapists, whatever. I'm not going to comment on that. And obviously, I love Mexicans. Obviously, it goes without saying. But the reason the media went after him when he said that was because there is a reality on the border that you don't see on TV. And that's a fact. There is an importation of cheap migrant slave, pretty much slave labor to drive down American wages. It's a reality you don't see on TV, and nobody fucking acknowledged it or recognized it. Now, Trump came on stage, and he did something you're not supposed to fucking do. He named it, he recognized it, he acknowledged it. No. That's a dangerous thing. That puts him in the camp of Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un. You know, listen. We are living in a Stalinist reality. Objectively, we're living in a socialist, realist reality. This is Xi's world. This is Putin's world. This is Kim Jong-un's world. This is the real truth of the world. If you want to understand truth, objective truth, it's here, right? That's the truth of the world right now. And liberal states hide, obfuscate, and lie about the nature of this world, which is why you see these strange similarities between, like, you know, oh, a totalitarian communist state and where liberalism is going. Because reality is already bent. We're already fucking living in George Orwell's 1984. The Chinese just acknowledge it and own up to it and embrace it and then own it. They own it there, right? Here, it's fucking scary totalitarianism because we don't own it. We don't understand it. We don't understand this common social substance that unites us and which bends and twists and contorts our reality. And that's also why they accuse Trump of totalitarianism. Oh, Trump's telling alternative facts. That's what dictators do. That's what totalitarian leaders do. That's not what Trump fucking did. Where's the alternative facts? All Trump did is give the facts that cannot be compatible with the status quo and the prevailing order. And he's nailed on a cross for it. Now, the Great Reset is the way, and it's the last hurrah of the ruling class and the globalists who, in a depraved way, completely redesign society to maintain their insane, decrepit, failing, and rotting, dogmatic kind of prejudiced, I would even say metaphysics, philosophy of the world. They insist and they die by this satanic, literal, metaphysical Satanist view that reality is something completely blind, impartial, and uncaring to human realities. Reality is completely malignant with regard to human reality. So we can't have a government by, of, and for the people. We have to have a government by, for, and of Mammon, and by, for, and of Moloch, and by, for, and of fucking Satan. We can't have it for the people, because if you acknowledge it for the people, you're saying miracles are real. You're saying that reality reflects back upon us in and of itself ourselves. You're saying like that we're part of this reality. We're not just some accident. Reality doesn't exist at our expense. Reality itself is bent in such a way that gives rise to our existence. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a fucking miracle. That has Christological significance. Right? Lenin had an immense Christological significance precisely for this reason. Because Lenin was a theorist. Lenin was an angry intellectual, and he was kicked out of all the snobby intellectual circles, and he pulled himself up by the bootstraps, quite literally, and from the ground, as much as he intellectualized reality, he made it a point of independent sovereignty, political sovereignty, social sovereignty. Lenin stood by his insight. He broke with the continuum of European modernity and the status quo that then prevailed. He stuck his foot on the fucking ground and he remained true and faithful to this alternative timeline that was Marxism, that was represented by Marxism. Because remember, Lenin wrote The Development of Capitalism in Russia. He wrote that book. And Lenin was seeing that he was on a timeline, that Russia was going to develop into this capitalist country. And he could see how corrupt, evil, rotten, and decadent this timeline he was living on was. Because it was a full continuity between it and the international British system, the British Empire, the bankers, the financiers, these civilized liberals of Europe. And he broke with it. He broke with it radically. He broke with it abruptly. And he remained faithful to a theory of modernity, a Promethean theory of modernity, which was called Marxism. And to gain a base for this alternative timeline, this alternative path to modernity, Lenin went to the people. He went to the people. He didn't go to Mammon. He didn't go to the abstraction of philosophy, the abstraction of thought, the abstraction in general. He went to something that had a twist. People, the Narod, right? The same people of the Narodniks, the populace in Russia, which he repudiated on the grounds, not that they went to the people, but that they didn't acknowledge we are headed for a certain timeline. You cannot preserve the past. You can't preserve even the present. You have to acknowledge this confrontation coming from the future, which was the conflict between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Beyond this, Lenin was a disciple of Herzen. He was otherwise a Narodnik, but this is what he insisted on. So that was Lenin's significance, and this complete break with bourgeois modernity and bourgeois formalism. Lenin, he was an intellectual, and he went to the people. He was a hyper intellectual. He was a theoretician. And to this day, go to rural Russia, go to Donbass. Got these old people who are the sons and daughters of the Russian peasantry. And guess who hangs in their living room? Guess whose face for them represents an ardent defender of the people, a hero, even a savior of the people? Lenin. Do they understand all of Lenin's theories? Have they read all of Lenin? Have they read even a word of Lenin? Probably not. These were the sons and daughters of illiterate peasants in Russia. Lenin for them is Prometheus. Lenin has a Christological significance. Lenin came down from heaven as man, as the people. He came down from the ruling class, if you will, right? The intellectuals, the philosophers. He came down from the seat of philosophy, which is the seat of the ruling class, by the way. And Lenin didn't know the people completely. He didn't know them. He was an intellectual. And there was this coincidence that happened. You can call it a coincidence, but I like to call it a miracle. Where they somehow recognized each other. The peasants couldn't read Lenin. They don't know anything. They didn't understand Lenin's theories or ideologies. And Lenin also didn't necessarily understand the peasants, but somehow they recognized each other. Somehow Lenin became a symbol of the growth and the uplifting of the peasants. That's why he hangs on their walls to this day in their homes. His portrait, his statues, his bust, it's all there. There's a song, I think it's a Moldovan song or a Romanian song, and it's called Lenin Gave Us Light. That's what he did. He didn't fully understand it. They didn't fully understand it from an intellectual level, but somehow it happened in reality. It happened in reality itself. Lenin started as just this angry intellectual. He was just an angry guy. He was an angry theorist, and he was an angry intellectual. And about 60 years after his death, one of the most powerful superpowers on planet Earth was building giant busts of his head on the side of mountains and on the side of canyons. And his portrait still hangs in the homes of the Russian people. If you don't think that's a miracle, I don't know what to tell you. The reason people have to cope so hard about this idea that the Bolsheviks were funded by the ruling class and that's why they came into power is because it is a fucking miracle. It's a Christological miracle. If you cannot accept the miracle of Lenin, you're not a Christian. Because the miracle of Lenin is the same as the miracle of Christ. Am I saying Lenin is Christ? No. But I'm saying it has a Christological significance. Christ is supposed to prove something about our reality. And if you believe in Christ, then the miracle of Lenin should be superfluous to you. It should be possible to you already. It was a miracle. Yes, it happened. There was an alternative timeline that actually happened. There was a glitch in the matrix, whatever you want to fucking call it. Yes, it did happen. That's Lenin's significance. And Lenin himself was shocked by it. Did you know that I think it was 60 days or 61 days out of the October Revolution, Lenin went outside and he started dancing in the snow. You want to know why he started dancing in the snow? Because he was so happy that the Soviet dictatorship, the workers' dictatorship, lasted longer than the Paris Commune. He didn't believe it. He thought, how is this possible? How is this miracle possible? The Paris Commune was a legendary event for communists because for the first time the workers took over. And then they did it in Russia, and Lenin, it's so unprecedented. There's no precedent for it. And it defies reality itself. It defies the logic dictating the reality of modernity from the very beginning. So Lenin went outside and he started dancing joyfully because it lasted longer than the commune. Because for him, that was the wake-up call that this is real. This miracle is real. This is possible. Now, how do you go from this to Maga? Well, that's what Maga's significance is in this country. It's about a miracle. It's about the miracle that America can be something human, something determinate, something real. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you.
When you read Lenin on the Narodniks, there is a passionate anger that belies an envy at their project, despite their naivets. When the Bolsheviks made this connection, they did it authentically.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris Morlock. I appreciate you so much. In the American context, so Lenin was a Prometheus. He was there before it was evident that it was inevitable. Before it was evident that socialism and the workers' dictatorship was inevitable, Lenin was there on the basis of faith. Today, the inevitability and the evidence of socialism and the workers' dictatorship is evident and apparent to us. And it's evident and apparent to us in the Maga movement. I'm not saying Trump is Lenin. Trump is a cynic, probably. Trump probably, you know, who knows what he's motivated by. But we have to receive the calling of this split in the fabric of American reality that's happened, and the reasons why it's causing a conflict. On the one hand, lie the lackeys of the bourgeoisie as we know it. This is the Democrats and the liberals and the establishment Republicans. On the other hand, you have a very primitive, very incipient, what else can you fucking call it? Socialistic movement. What faction of the bourgeoisie is behind Trump? Please name the faction of the bourgeoisie behind Trump. There's none. The Republicans fucking want to destroy Trump. They want to put DeSantis in his stead because Trump was a fucking accident. Trump was a reality TV host who accidentally, he had no intention to do this, merged with the workers of America. That's where he got all his fucking power from. Yeah, he caved in and he compromised with the Republicans, which, by the way, is why I am not optimistic about the prospects of Trump. I think he's under so much pressure. You watch this in my video. This is how we beat them. It's titled "This is how we beat them." I don't think Trump is going to succeed because precisely because he don't have a faction in the ruling class behind him. Yeah, here's the thing. Peter Thiel and that network, it's just Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel isn't a faction of the bourgeoisie. He's a rogue actor as far as the ruling class is concerned. How could he possibly take it to the heights of success? He couldn't. Because you need a class base. So see, for example, Peter Thiel's class doesn't like Peter Thiel. That's what I'm trying to say. He's stepping outside of what his fellow Silicon Valley guys like. Him and Elon Musk, right? The shareholders, the tech, whatever, they're not. You have to understand, big tech is still controlled by finance. Did you guys know that? A lot of people think big tech is like some independent thing, and it's not. Big tech is still fucking controlled by the fucking financial oligarchy. Did you know that? Well, it is. The banks are not gone. They're still fucking here. The central banks that control us in our economy are still fucking here. BlackRock. I mean, you got to understand the fucking world we live in. Evangelicals. Oh, you want to know the story of evangelicals? I'll tell you the story of evangelicals. So, the rural American working class was left behind by the left and the so-called class-conscious communists who are retards. So the evangelicals came and institutionalized and organized a segment of the population that no one else was able to do and nobody else tapped into, and that's what evangelicism represents in America. There's the story of evangelicals. So you want to keep bitching about evangelicals and you're a lefty or you're a socialist or whatever the fuck you want to call yourself, blame only yourself. You only fucking have yourself to blame for that. There's Pentagon, factions, military, industrial. That's not clear. It's not clear if there's a class behind Trump or Peter Thiel. Just because there's individual you have to make the qualitative leap from individuals to a class. To make it leap to a class, you need the element of reproducibility. I don't see that. The core of Trump's movement is the working class. Without the working class, there's no Maga. So Maga communism it's literally just Leninism in the American context. And yeah, you're going to meet the workers where they're at. If the word MAGA triggers you, you're already an enemy of the working class. And you're an enemy of the people. MAGA is just an acknowledgement of the other America. America with a twist. The nature of that twist is not decided beforehand. It just has a twist. We're just acknowledging there is a twist. That's all MAGA is. And this is why people who are like, Trump is a complete con man. He's a reality TV host. He's trashy. You're a fucking idiot if you say that, because you don't even fucking get it. You think people don't know that? That's the whole fucking point. Trump is a clown, is the point. He went on WWE, you know, directly addressing that crowd and acknowledging them. Trump is a clown. He's a clown. He's a reality host con man. People see that as a crack in the system. They see that as a crack in the ruling class. And it's a crack that allows them to take initiative. That's what the significance of that is. The clown nature of Trump just reflects the clown nature of America. Trump is a clown because America is a clown. And if America is a clown, that means there's a contradiction. So you see what the significance of Trump is? There's actually probably a direct correlation here. 2016 was a year of clowns. You guys remember the clown scare of 2016? You guys remember the movie It that came out and all that shit? And there was that guy 6ix9ine who was like a literal clown. Remember that whole fucking thing that happened? It's not an accident and it's not a coincidence. So people who call him a trashy reality TV con man don't even fucking understand the point. People see that as their opening. That's why they trust him. He's inadequate in projecting a simulation. His ability to simulate legitimacy is inadequate. So people see that as the opportunity for real legitimacy. Real sovereignty. If you don't understand this, you're probably just stupid. Even Alex Jones is done with Trump. So what does it mean to be done with Trump or pro-Trump? I've never voted in my fucking life. I've never told anyone to vote in my life ever. By the way, I did interview people who talked about voting, and I didn't even include those in the video. Because I don't ever want to have a message to tell people to go out and vote or include any such messages. I don't believe in voting. I believe in building working class political power. And then the only time we should ever vote is on the basis of that power. So I don't tell people to vote for Trump even. But I still understand Trump as a symbol and as a rallying point for an alternative form of politics. It's like that simple, you know? And people say, oh, Haas, the Maga movement's just like the Black Hundreds. No, it's not. No, it's not. The reason why Maga has no equivalent as far as Lenin's time is concerned is because the very overt and apparent antagonism, the metaphysical antagonism, if you want to call it that, the aesthetical antagonism, aesthetic in a strong sense. A lot of people think aesthetics just means cosmetic. No, it doesn't. It means literally how the world is made sense of. That strict antagonism was not apparent in Lenin's time, which was still the time of classical bourgeois modernity. In our time, MAGA isn't even a political movement necessarily. It's not an ideology. It's none of that. It represents something far more ambiguous and indeterminate, right? And what it represents is the fertile soil of American socialism. That's what MAGA represents. And why has this fertile soil emerged? Because we are actually transitioning, or we have already transitioned into, a socialist mode of production. So the question is, how do we respond to that? That's the pressing question of our time. The pressing question of Marx's time was capitalism is breaking down and it's transitioning into a new mode of production. How do we respond to it? Well, the question of our time. So thank you so much, Andrew. The question of our time is, it seems like the capitalist mode of production is over. So how do we respond to that destruction of capitalism as we know it? That's the pressing question of our time. MAGA failed, bro. You think so? You think so? Why don't you go outside and just fucking talk to someone? And I'm not talking. Don't talk to someone. Don't talk to your college-educated glasses wearers. Go talk to ordinary people. And hey, do you trust the media? Hey, do you believe what they're telling us about Ukraine? Hey, I guarantee you, 1 in 2, 1/2 of people are Maga. So no, it didn't fail. Maga's still living. Because now MAGA is an existential battle. And I'm not talking about any election. I'm not talking about any electoral scheme. I'm talking about a fundamental antagonism between the Great Reset agenda and our ability to articulate ourselves as a sovereign people. That is the division at stake. MAGA is literally life and death. It's a matter of survival. Like, I can't talk about this on YouTube, but like, when the authorities tell us to do things that are contrary to our survival, and you can't rally to the authorities, and like, what do we even fucking do anymore? How do we even have consciousness of ourselves as a people when the institution that formally represents us as a people, the government and all its subsidiaries, we can't trust them anymore? Well, MAGA is the alternative. And MAGA is an open signifier. Whatever Ernesto Laclau said about floating, I forgot which one, floating or it's an empty signifier. That's all it is. It's just people who acknowledge we're being lied to. But it's like, put it this way. Imagine the lights close and you can't see a damn thing anymore. So you go, Marco Polo. Now imagine saying, MAGA, MAGA, and that's what MAGA is. It's a way to see in the dark from scratch because you can't fucking trust anything else. So you're starting from square one. It's a primitive form of socialist consciousness. Square one. That's what it is. Think about it. The lights turn off. So how do we find each other? Marco Polo. That's how we find each other, right? So the lights are off. So you turn the lights on. Oh, you have to give money to Ukraine. You have to give money to Zelensky. The lights turn off. Thank you so much, Lionel. The lights turn off. Zelensky is a fraud. Zelensky is a criminal. Zelensky. You know what I mean? That's what MAGA is. They've been here since Reagan and before. No, MAGA is definitely square one. MAGA is definitely square one. I'll tell you why. The Reagan Revolution did initiate a process of Democrats going over to the Republican Party, but it didn't. But that was not a qualitative change in the way MAGA was. That was just a quantitative change. That was a quantitative change, not a qualitative one. I completely disagree. So basically, every critique of the MAGA communism thing, I hate to say it, but you're just affirming the bourgeois realism that MAGA has definitively broken from. You're saying, okay, Trump is a con man. Every fucking politician in the history of America has been a con man. It's all been a con man. It's all been a deception. Okay, but that's literally the bourgeois realism and cynicism that corresponds to the existing aesthetic or metaphysics. You know what I mean? Like, you're not breaking out of anything. That's literally, if you ask Joe Biden, hey, has everyone always been corrupt, including yourself? He'd be like, yep. Darwin was right. Yep. You're Satanists. Thank you, Chris Morlock. Appreciate you.
Reaganites were a bunch of trots who became Democrats that then became neocons. It has nothing to do with MAGA people.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And I think the neocons are trying to come back through Bannon, so that's also true. But you have to understand, where do you align yourself in the process? Yeah, but what I'm trying to say, when you affirm the cynicism that all American politics is dirty, corrupt, and whatever, I'm sorry, that's the ruling class ideology already. And it's not wrong per se. It's not necessarily wrong, but where do you go from there? Every response you articulate, if that is your metaphysics, if that's your aesthetic, is just a form of bourgeois ideology. Now, on the other hand, if you say, okay, one of those bastards, Trump, represents something new that we can build off of, you're doing something, you're doing what Jesus Christ did, basically. It's Christological. You're saying, you know what? There's a miracle here. You can say reality is just one meaningless series of accidents and cons and disappointments. And this is what like late 30s, mid 30s millennials like to say because they settled with some fat, ugly bitch that they live with, and they're become fat, ugly, and retarded themselves, and they look in the mirror and they regret every decision they made in their life. So they tend to think like, and then they look at the Zoomers like us or the young millennials like myself, who have so much more potential and opportunity that lies before us, and they're like, no, you're gonna end up just like me, miserable and bitter. Nobody forced you to choose the life path that you chose, right? But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that, you know, you need to actually have the negation of the negation to articulate a working class form of politics, not just in terms of what you tell people and what you say, but in terms of, let's say, the transcendental ground, or the metaphysical ground, if you want, Schelling, whatever, out of which you proceed with speaking to people. Like, not just what you tell people, but what kind of like basic a priori ground you're beginning with. Are you beginning from an actual objective, like, and then in practical terms, like real acknowledgement of a fundamental divide, or is the articulation of division still just an intellectual one? For example, if you really acknowledge there's an antagonism, then you're not going to dictate the form the antagonism takes. You're going to submit to that form and acknowledge that form while articulating and distilling its essence. But that's going to be your ground. It's going to be an objective ground from which you proceed. And those are two very different things. Oh, Trump is a con man. Trump is corrupt. And so what? We know our reality's fucking corrupt. Does that mean we don't exist as Americans? Does that mean there's no real America? Does that mean there's no fucking reality that presupposes? This is what you're trying to fucking say. You're trying to say reality is a piece of trash, so I want to create a new fucking reality, and I want to create a new simulation of reality. So join my party and follow my cult and my ideology and my dogma, or you're a fascist piece of shit and I want you to die. That's your position if you're a leftist. Well, that's the position of the bourgeoisie, except instead of a cult and a party, they call it the state, and they call it the universal state, and they call it their fucking, open society. They call it their institution. They call it their network society, whatever you want to fucking call it. Their great reset. That's already the bourgeoisie, and it's always been the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie never has acknowledged any human reality metaphysically. Reality is a bastard, according to them, right? Reality is a horrible, accursed, horrible thing, because let me tell you why it's satanic. I'm just going to give you the whole secret of the whole fucking thing. The bourgeoisie is the class that woke up, looked in the mirror, and saw something ugly. So they said, God has done this to me. God has broken my heart. So therefore, I have to do everything in my power to rebel against God and prove him wrong. Because my conceit that God disappointed me is stronger than... literally, I mean... when I say literal Satanism, it's literally where the ruling class is coming from. It is actual Satanism. That is where it's coming from. Don't believe me? I know it sounds crazy, but if it's like, if you know, you know. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. You have more experience in life you need to have. But then they said, okay, so we hate God now, so we have to create everything from scratch, and everything outside that should be damned, right? Well, so that's the Satanism of today's elite. You only are arriving at a, let's just say, non-bourgeois position, proletarian position, if you're acknowledging an antecedent and objective ground that's not just some abstraction or some negation. That's what it is. And that's what Maga is. That's all Maga really is. Now, I'm telling you all this complicated theoretical shit. I could just tell you, go to a fucking Maga rally. You're going to see that all these people are together, united against a common enemy in the ruling class and the establishment. And they'll be open to any anti-establishment view you have. Whereas if you go to a lib shit fucking rally, you're going to have a bunch of people in glasses try to lecture you and push back on shit from you from the perspective of like expert knowledge and authoritative, legitimative knowledge. Like, I could just tell you that. I could just tell you, if you go to a fucking Biden rally or a Democrat rally, you're not going to have a base of operations you can build to create a communist movement. I mean, Joe Sims is literally now saying we need to vote for Democrats. Now, actually, I want to react to this video, because why not?